In the directory of social and psychological disorders, if you look under the title of anxiety, you will find one of the symptoms, one of the major symptoms of anxiety is the fear, irrational fear, excessive worry over what's past or what is to come or the outcome of something that you are currently involved in. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 people in the world face some form of severe anxiety. 1 in 8 of them are diagnosed with some form of a generic anxiety disorder, meaning they're excessively worrying about something or the other, past, present or future. In a world where human beings feel more and more in control, things are more and more automated, there's more machines to get things done, why are people so worried? Why are people so anxious? Why have we seen in front of us a very anxious generation? And what is Madarij al-Salikin going to do about it? In Madarij al-Salikin, the book that we're exploring, there's a beautiful station in the stations that take you to Allah, which is Manzilatul Tawakkul, the station of trusting Allah. And this, I believe, is the antidote to the modern day anxiety that most people experience. You might say, but what about medication? You might say, what if it's physical? Let's rule out all of those cases where somebody needs medication. Fundamentally, the wiring of human beings have changed such that they've stopped trusting Allah. And this is one of the greatest causes of the anxiety that we see, the worry, the sadness, the depression that we see in the faces of the people around us today. The complete opposite of trusting Allah the Almighty is being obsessed and completely trusting the means and the tools around you such that you become over-invested in them. When Allah talks about this in the Qur'an, He says, "Ar-ra'ahu istaghna," in the very first revelation. What happens when you see a person think they don't need Allah, they just need these tools. They need this food, this water, this cooker, etc. in order to provide for themselves, not realizing that if Allah hadn't provided for them, they would be hungry and thirsty. So this is what we're going to talk about. At-tawakkul in Arabic comes from the root letters wakala yakilu, which is to leave something to somebody else to do, to let somebody else take charge of your affairs. A very simple analogy I can give you is a travel agent. I know people don't use travel agents anymore. All of you use Skyscanner. That's fine. You can use Google Flights as well. I don't get any commission on either of them. Why? If we just take this for a moment, up to 20 to 30 years ago, before the boom of the World Wide Web and the internet, if you needed to take a flight to go somewhere, you had to go to a travel agent and you had to leave it to them. In the last 20 to 30 years, with the bearing of digital devices and the internet and automation and all these things, human beings are taking more and more on their own plate. Is the birth of DIY. A friend of mine once, I found him, he went and he bought plaster and he decided he was going to plaster his own walls. I said, Habibi, call an expert, pay the plasterer and let him plaster your walls. He said, no, I can do it. Why? I watched a YouTube video. That's the generation we live in. Everybody thinks I can do it myself, I can rely on myself, I can be self-sufficient because I can watch a YouTube video, I can buy a machine, AI will do it for me, this tool, that method, this process, that company. I don't need somebody else. I'm not dependent anymore, I'm independent. And so gradually in the last 100 years, you've seen human beings feel and want to be more and more independent. A young man, a woman growing up in their parents' home. The same mother who put the food inside this child's mouth and fed them so dependently for so many years, all of a sudden a day comes, the child says, I don't need you anymore. I want to be independent. Where did this sorcery come from? Where did this idea come from? This desire to not need somebody else or to not need, effectively in the end, to not even need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. This is the disease of our age. There's a lot of backstory to why people want this and why they're sold that this is the best thing for them and why they desire it. But let us come to tawakkul. Wakala yakilu, to leave something to somebody else. A travel agent is a wakil. Somebody you have told, listen, I want to go to Zanzibar, I want to go to Malawi, I want to go to Pakistan. On these dates, this is my budget. Assalamu alaikum, I leave it to you. The moment you say, I leave it to you, now you have made them a wakil. You have left the outcome to them. Now, Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, says in Madarij al-Salikin, he says there's 3 levels of tawakkul. Tawakkul is the art of leaving somebody else in charge. The art of entrusting the outcome, not the process, but the outcome, to somebody or something else. He says there's 3 levels of tawakkul. He says the level 1 is when you give it to somebody else, but you don't trust they're going to do it, so you keep intervening. You've physically trusted them with it, but mentally you've not left it with them. So you go to the travel agent. Assalamu alaikum, press 1 for English, 2 for Arabic. Press 1. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to go to Argentina. What dates, brother? These dates. What's your budget? This budget. Direct, indirect, these are my constraints. All right, brother, tomorrow I'll give you the packages. Assalamu alaikum. I call back. Brother, can you make sure the person who picks me up is of this height, looks like this, the specification of the car? The hotel, I don't want the hotel to be on the east side of the city, it has to be on the west side of the city. And actually, can you make sure there's late checkout and early breakfast and free this? And make sure there's a sauna and this and that. What do you think the agent's going to say at the end of the call? Habib, in fact, you book my tickets as well, since you're such a big expert. So this is fake tawakkul, in the sense you physically discharge the responsibility to them, but mentally you're still, it's all with you. You can't let go of everything. You want to be involved. You're obsessed with every step of the process. You're obsessed with the method. Habibi, then you do it. Why are you giving it to me? This is level 1. And Ibn al-Qayyim says many people, a vast majority of people, they pretend to trust Allah, but in reality they're doing this level 1, where they say, Allah, I leave it to you, but actually I can't leave it to you. I can only rely on myself to get it done. That's level 1. Then you have level 2, which he calls at-Tafweed, to resign in the most deep way, to resign the outcome to Allah. And he says at-Tafweed is when you do everything possible that you can do, you exhaust the means, but the outcome, the result, you say, oh Allah, this is for you. You have an exam. You start preparing 6 months before. You download the past papers. You memorize the summary. You write notes with 4 different colors, 3 different highlighters. You watch every video on the internet. You do everything you possibly can in preparation for the exam. And when you rock up on the exam day and you do the exam and you come home, you say, oh Allah, I've done everything I could do. The rest is up to you. Such that when the outcome comes, you are completely unbothered by the outcome. If it's 0 or if it's 100, you are not bothered. Why? In your head, in your soul, my only obligation is to do the necessary steps. But the outcome is nothing to do with me absolutely whatsoever. If I've been negligent with my studies, then I'll blame myself. But in reality, the outcome is to Allah. So I'm going to be relaxed. So everybody else is coming on results day like this, that can I have my results? And you're there relaxing. Because it doesn't matter. I did what I could. I did my best. I put in my effort. And the rest I'm going to relegate to Allah. This word tafweed comes in the Qur'an, or rather let me ask the question, where does it come in the Qur'an? Dear Ahlul Furqan. The verb is وَأُفَوِّضُ. Someone said, someone's whispering it. وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Who said it in the Qur'an? They ask, who said وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ? I like to challenge, it's nice. Not Yaqub. Sorry? Not Musa alayhi salam, but close. In the story of Musa, there was a man from an MP in Fir'aun's inner circle, one of his close leaders, is pretending to be, just hiding his belief. And eventually they found out that this guy is a believer, he's a monotheist, and he's trying to push the mission of Moses. Let's kill him. And when he comes into open confrontation with them, he starts to explain to them, guys, how can you kill a man just because he says, my Lord is Allah, etc. And then he says, you know what? I said to you, and I let go. I absolve myself. I submit my situation to Allah. This is level 2. He has done everything to convince his people, to explain to them, and to protect the faith. And at the end he says, you know what, after all this, I'm going to leave it to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of his slaves. What happens next? Who can tell me the next ayah? Allahu sayyi'ati ma makaru. The moment he said, I'm going to leave it to Allah, I'm done. I've done everything I could possibly do. I've exhausted myself. The next ayah Allah says, Allah protected him from all of their evil plots. They couldn't get him. Why? Because one of the greatest means and tools and methods to earn the help of the Almighty is to actually know when your job stops and his job begins. And to actively say, you know what? Whatever the outcome is, bad, good, great, terrible, amazing, I've left it to Allah. This is tafweed. The third level, and the final level, don't worry, there's only 3 levels, that Ibn al-Qayyim mentions, he calls is manzilatu taslim. The level of submission is the level of Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he steps into the fire, and he just expects the fire to go cold. Please don't try this at home. No, I didn't say you should try this at home. He steps into the fire, and he knows, I have submitted to Allah, and I have completely submitted the situation to Him. My hands are tied, and so Allah will look after me. One of the most beautiful outcomes or results or fruits of tawakkul is it gives you confidence. You are willing and able and ready to go anywhere and do anything so long as it pleases your Lord and the Almighty. Because if He asks you to do it, or if it pleases Him, there is no way He's going to abandon you in the process. The verses I recited in the beginning tells a similar story. The Prophet Musa alayhi salam goes to his people. He says, Banu Israel, 5 out of 5, great job. Here we are, I'm paraphrasing, don't quote me on this. Here we are, we've reached here, you've been with me all these years, you exited Egypt, you've come into the middle of nowhere, and now, final test, boss level test. What's the boss level test? He says, look, there is the Holy Land, the land of Palestine, the land of Canaan, the land of the messengers and prophets. That is your final destination and home. But there's only one thing, you're going to have to fight for it. And don't turn back and run away, because then you will be losers. They said, Musa, inside we can see that inside those gates there's a big army, qawman jabbarin, powerful people. And we will never enter until those guys leave. If they leave, then talk to us. Give us a call, we'll make the move. What's wrong with these people? Do they lack courage? Do they lack risk-taking? Are they anxious? Are they worried? What's the issue? There's only one issue. All of those things might be symptoms. They're fearful, they're anxious, they're lazy, they're cowards. You can say all of those things. But you know what the root cause is? They don't trust Allah enough with the outcome. They think it's all about power and strength in numbers. And so they've decided, we're not going to even move. We're not even going to try. Why? There's no point. 2 men from the people of Musa stand up. 2 men who were fearful of Allah stood up. They said, guys, just make the effort and enter the door. If you make the effort, how on earth is Allah going to humiliate you and leave you behind? You have to take the step. The outcome is not in your hand, but you have to take the step. And hear what they say at the end. And here Ibn al-Qayyim makes a beautiful point. He says, whoever has no tawakkul has no iman. It's actually a very scary point. If you don't have enough ability to trust Allah and resign the outcome to Him and be completely relaxed when the outcome comes out, there is a problem deeper in your iman. Maybe you don't know who Allah is. Maybe that knowledge of Allah is not settled. You're not convinced to leave it to Him. Just like the level 0 travel agent. If I'm micromanaging the travel agent, clearly I don't trust that he's competent. I think he's going to mess it up. I think he's going to book me a flight to Tanzania rather than Argentina. I don't trust him, basically. Right? He's incompetent. Many of us treat Allah this way. We do not believe Allah is competent to take charge of our affairs. We do not believe that Allah is enough for us. When you reach the moment in which you can trust Allah and you can resign your affairs to Him and you are relaxed about the outcome, you will find yourself confident to do things you never did before. Why? You'll find yourself taking risks, calculated risks that you never took before. Why? Because you trust, I have to just take the plunge and Allah will guide me to the pearls in the sea. Many of us, we want to from afar look at the sea, theorize about the beauty of the pearls, talk about the pearls with our friends, and imagine somehow that they will manifest itself. But it is only he who is ready to take the plunge, dive in, take the risk, hold your breath, and make an attempt. It is only they who will get the pearls in the end. Imam al-Shafi'i makes this point when he says, بِقَدْرِ الْكَدِّ تُكْتَسَبُ الْمَعَالِ وَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْعُلَى سَهِرَ اللَّيَالِ وَمَنْ رَامَ الْعُلَى مِنْ غَيْرِ كَدٍّ أضاع العمر في طلب المحال تروم العزة ثم تنام ليلا يغوص البحر من طلب اللآلي. He says, if you think that you want to reach high places, but you want to snore at night, you're never going to get there. Don't you see that in order to get pearls, people have to dive deep into the sea? It takes tawakkul in order to take such risks. You've talked enough about what is tawakkul. What are the fruits of tawakkul? What does it really look like? And what is tawakkul micromanagement, DIY, independence tawakkul? How do we actually achieve this trait of trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our affairs? And how do we rise in the ranks? The first thing is that we have to remember that these are actions of the heart. They are muscles of the soul. They will not happen on their own passively. You have to activate them. You have to manually do something for it to move. And so, there is something the Prophet ﷺ used to say in the morning and evening to activate the muscle of tawakkul, of trusting Allah. And I'm going to ask you all to say it after me. He would say it 7 times in the morning and evening. Hasbiyallahu. Hasbiyallahu. La ilaha illahu. عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم Hasbiyallah means Allah is enough for me. La ilaha illahu, there's none worthy of my worship, my devotion. Nobody else is in control but Him. عليه tawakkaltu, I trust Him. I relinquish my control to Him. وهو رب العرش العظيم, and He is the master of the glorious throne. 7 times in the morning and evening, the Prophet ﷺ would sit and say this. And if you sit and think about what you're actually saying, it's not possible for you to say this sentence without realizing the power and ability of Allah. The first step, if you want to reach the level of tawakkul, the first step is you need what we call Wakil Glasses. What are Wakil Glasses? Every incident that happens in your life, the way you look at it and the way you interpret it, this alone can change your life completely. Somebody who has an anxiety disorder, in reality, their problem is, one of the many problems they have, potentially, is a lack of tawakkul. They invest all of their money in a business. The next day, they lose all of their money in the business. And now they are in a constant state of worry. Even 10 years later, when they become wealthy again, they are constantly worried because they burnt their fingers. I don't want to invest in anything ever again because I've already been burnt before. The psychologists call this trauma. As Muslims, we don't call this trauma. Trauma in the English language is when something very heavy smacks you in the face. They call it blunt trauma. Something blunt has smashed into you. We don't call this trauma, we call it trials and tests. Because trials and tests come from a merciful creator who's trying to improve you. And trauma comes from somebody trying to kill you. You see, so the language, how you describe what's happening to you and how you understand it and how you frame it is half of the journey of the soul. Something bad happens to you. Your mother passes away, your father passes away, you lose your wealth in an investment, you go through a divorce, you go through a challenge at work, somebody's taken you to court for something you never did. You're going through some challenge in life. The first thing to do is when you look at this, to remember, Allah is my wakil. The one who sent this to me is my agent, my trustee, the one I have trusted all of my affairs to. He is the one who's put me in this situation. Who's going to take me out? The one who put me in can take me out. If He willed it for me, it is the best thing for me. This is the first way to frame the situation. The second thing, I am not anxious or in a rush or in haste to get out, especially if my hands are tied. Because I know the one who put me in here, al-Wakil, put me here for a wisdom. And it is just a matter of time when His wisdom dictates for me to be left out. I will not be here 1 second long than He wants me to be, nor 1 second less than He wants me to be. And this is the attitude of Yusuf alayhi salam in prison. He is not in prison of his own accord. He's there out of his control. Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't choose to be in the fire. Yunus alayhi salam didn't choose to enter the whale. Oftentimes you end up in situations in life you never chose, but Allah chose for you. And here's the question. You went to a travel agent and you said, book me these flights to Argentina. I leave it to you. I trust you. You're competent. You're intelligent. You end up on the flight and you think, what on earth is this airlines? There's no food on the flight. There's no drink on the flight. Then you remind yourself, actually, I trust the agent. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. There's got to be some reason why he did this to me. You take your first flight from here to Argentina. 1 stop. And great. You step off. You transit, you take your second flight in order to get to Argentina. Second flight is business class. Someone's massaging your feet on the aeroplane. You think, wow, maybe this is why he did this to me. He got a cheaper first flight so I could get a better second flight. I trust him. He's a smart guy. This is the way that we have to trust Allah. When we are in situations out of our control, we have to be sure, absolutely certain, that there is a silver lining, that there is a plan, there is an exit, there is a better outcome, because Al-Wakil sent it to me. Why would I worry? I trust Him more than I trust my own parents, my own children. Why would I worry? If my mother chose to send me to prison, she was 100% saving me from something worse. And so, if you look at, first of all, and perceive the situation in this way, it's not possible for you to be extremely stressed out or suicidal or extremely anxious. Why? You're reminding yourself, Hasbiyallahu wa ni'mal wakil. I trusted myself and my affairs and my day-to-day situation to the best agent, the best trustee. Why should I worry? And so you slowly see your stress levels reducing, your cortisol levels reducing. The GP says you don't need medication. You need to go home, say 7 times, Hasbiyallahu la ilaha illahu. You'll be fine, don't worry.